welcome back to another episode of
I was wondering if you're going to wait for me to interrupt you or not.
Pressed Humor Issues. Yeah. You're timing it differently each week.
Yes.
I can appreciate that.
We got to get done this season so I can stop doing this to you.
Yeah, no shit. Totally threw me off. Big day today.
I found out that I have a butthole on my foot. So, for the people that don't know, I'm having problems with one of my feet in my playing hockey. That it's torn up pretty bad, and Joe, as we talked about earlier, has broken up his shoulder, and some texts went back and forth. And I ended up sending Joe a picture of what my foot looked like, and he said, "Do you have a butthole on your foot?" And so now I have a butthole foot.
Hold on, you gotta back that story up because it has a way better origin story.
Well, go for it then.
So I was on a call with Joe today, and we get off the call, and he shoots me a text. I should just go back to the text so I don't butcher it because it was so fucking funny. There. He says, I have a feeling Dan would be really proud of my one-handed tegaderming while on meetings. And Joe proceeds to send two photos, one post-op out of the ER, or the OR, and then his own version of it.
Which he did a very piss poor job of taping himself shut.
And I think that was the point of it, right?
Yeah. So then you showed me that picture, and then I took the picture of my ankle and sent to him the following text. You're not the only one going through some shit right now, you big baby.
But before you sent that, I sent back to him. I said, Dan says, because I happen to be on a call with Dan, if it isn't infected, I don't want it. And then I said, I happen to be on a call with him. And he goes, ha ha ha, I mean other Dan, not Psycho Dan.
And that's when I sent the picture calling him a big baby. He sent me back text saying, is that a butthole growing on your foot? And I said, why wouldn't I know about tegaderming? I get boo-boos too, you know.
And that proceeded to send you and I both into an uncomfortable fit of laughter for long, maybe me more than you. I don't know, but it was good. So yeah, mistaken identity
led to butthole foot.
It was a great reprieve to a very difficult morning.
Yep. And then, so the other interesting thing that's going to be happening next week, you want to talk about that too?
What?
You're going to be. Oh, don't tell me you're chickening out now. You're
no. I'm coming. Okay,
but I don't need to know that personal a level of detail.
Hold on, I'm almost done. Okay, I will be going.
I don't want to be making eye contact with you when you say that anytime in the future, just so you're aware.
Hold on. Yeah. I'm gonna do it again.
Fuck you. It only works if that cup is filled with something white.
Tegaderm juice.
Okay, so go on.
So I will be going to Dan's hockey game in Minnesota because I happen to have to go up for business at the exact same time. The timing somehow, honestly, that worked out very last minute. Airfare worked out, all of it. So it was, assuming planes arrive on time, I'll get to see him falling on the ice and sitting in the vicinity of his lovely betrothed.
Yes. And hopefully I won't be too wounded by the end of it, because I'll probably have to kick your ass. Because I know you're going to come with pom poms or something like that, you dumb fuck.
Oh, why do you think it's got to be pom poms?
So all I want is for you to have to explain whatever you're wearing to TSA. That's all I care about.
It's not going to be the worst thing I've had to wear through TSA.
So speaking of shit shows, we got to talk about this. Okay, we'll get to the word of the
But
day shortly,
but
but
but wait. Before we go into this, I know you're ready, but I've got to celebrate two things and
okay.
one thing that didn't happen for me. Um, Start with the thing that didn't happen for me. I did not score any Oasis tickets.
Oh, here it goes.
I tried for Dublin and I tried for Edinburgh, and I got
Okay,
none.
I've seen you gay cry before. Is this going to be another gay cry episode?
No,
Because we both know they're not making it to the US.
they are. They're going to come to Minnesota.
No, 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 no. They say they're going to come to
No, no,
Minnesota.
no. They released their travel schedule accidentally because their tour manager's a dingus.
Yes, but that doesn't mean they're actually going to make it all the way to Minnesota.
Oh, come on. Give me a shred of hope.
If
So,
they come to Minnesota, I'll go with you.
okay. All right. I like that. All right. Okay. Yes.
I'm not
Let's
buying
make
any
this.
tickets at this point.
I saw the prices and they're like, people are charging like $11,000 for nosebleed seats on resale. It's whatever. But the other two things. So the NFL season kicks off today with my Kansas City Chiefs against someone,
Philadelphia, isn't it?
or Atlanta, one of the
Oh no, the
bird.
Ravens. They're playing the Ravens.
Oh man, we both got the two wrong bird teams.
Yeah,
But
but I didn't have to look it up. I wasn't Googling at that moment. I just went
I
back
I
into the
didn't
memory
either.
banks.
That's all I did. I said Falcons.
Yes, but you didn't correct yourself.
Because I couldn't remember the right one. And then Linkin Park emerged with a new lead singer,
Who did they get?
Emily Armstrong from Dead Sarah, and they performed a live
Hmm.
performance at, I guess would have been your 5 o'clock today. Popped up on my Instagram feed, so I watched them open with their brand new song and all of that.
In
She sounded.
Chicago?
I don't know where they were actually.
Hmm.
No, they had to be West Coast because it was airing 3 p.m. Pacific. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen them 3 times, I guess, but one time when they were still Hybrid Theory before they were actually Linkin Park and they were opening for a bunch of bands.
Yeah, the problem is that bands that lose their lead singer never ever recover unless their band name is ACDC.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, there's so few that do well afterwards. I mean,
In
look at
Excess, Queen.
yeah. I mean, Queen will never obviously be Queen without Freddie Mercury. Adam Lambert's done a great job, but it's not the same.
No, and In
Um,
Excess went through multiple singers, and I don't even know if they're
Journey.
still Journey. Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, there's a
David
few.
Lee Roth leaving Van Halen.
Some people like Van Hagar more, though.
Van Hagar was just different. I like them both, but it was a totally different band.
It is. I mean, the sound was. I mean, Drowning Pool.
Yep. Yep.
I
So
mean, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. They announced a world tour of 5 dates, and the next concert is in New York on like September 16th. I'm like, wow, way to give people time to travel to your fucking show.
uh,
But
uh
whatever.
okay.
Anyway, that's all I
So
got.
so now you ruined my whole segue about shit show. So just imagine it's like 4 minutes ago when I was
Mm,
bringing this up. And we're
hmm
going to get to the word of the day, like I said, but everybody has to listen to this. We're going to listen to it. We're going to talk about it for a minute max, and then we're going to get off of this. But this is the ultimate word salad you're ever going to hear. Let's go.
President Trump, you talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and
Buffering.
Republicans have in common is that
I don't
both
know what
parties
happened.
talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that, because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country, because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about.
Okay, that's enough.
That's plenty enough.
1 minute starting right now. This word
fuck,
salad.
man?
They basically just said how expensive healthcare is, and he just said healthcare is not expensive.
Childcare.
Childcare. And he never gave a policy on how he was going to do this besides taxing foreign nations, which a tariff is not a tax on a foreign nation. It's a tax on the people buying the products in the nation that you're in. It's just unbelievable that this man honestly could be let loose on the Economic Club of New York with the gobbledygook that he just put forward in that, and everything that he said the entire time they were questioning him was like this. I cannot wait for the debate.
What, debate's Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Oh, wait, what? Oh, I'm going to be at your stupid hockey game.
Oh, damn it. I'm going to be at my stupid hockey game. Oh, well, I guess we'll be watching it afterwards. Not together, though, because I'm going home with my wife. You can't come.
Yeah,
in multiple ways.
I'm going to come.
Wait till you get back in your hotel room. Anyways.
I can make eye contact with you when I say that.
Oh, yeah. I could avoid the eye contact, and you can guess which finger I'm using to do it.
You can avoid the eye contact, but you can't avoid the audio.
So, they talked about Biden stuttering and Biden mixing up words, which everybody does. I've done it already in this little section.
But he conflated today that he was running against Biden and then had to correct himself in the same sentence.
Yes. Yep. I'm okay with making that mistake every once in a while. But, everybody has done the, rock on Cleveland, and they're actually in some other town or something like that. I mean, we've all done something like that. You have your Yolanda moment. I mean,
that was I recovered well.
But there's a point where this is just a continuation of an obvious mental decline, because not once did he answer the actual question with an answer that was directly portable to the question that was asked.
No, I mean, He didn't even answer it with a policy.
No,
Like,
no,
he's just talking about tariffs because that's all he thinks he has a grasp on it.
yeah.
I was at Austin City Limits Music Festival a few years ago. This is not Trump related.
Listening to Linkin Park?
No, no, worse. Camilla Cabello, um, whom I will never listen to again because at Austin City Limits Music Festival, it's in the fucking title, she comes out on the stage, "Hello, Dallas."
Yeah. Yep.
And it's the one city you don't want to name in Austin, Dallas. It's one way to get an entire crowd of 100,000 people to hate you in 1 second.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, so
go ahead, Mr. Hawking.
let's let Mr. Hawking tell us what the word of the day is.
The word of the day is automobile.
Ooh, he went quick on that one.
That I wasn't ready. I thought he was going to talk a little slower.
Yeah, I thought I set him up to slow down a little bit. Steven, cool your jets, buddy.
The word of the day is automobile.
Yeah, that was the worst impression of that ever.
It sounded like Pee Wee Herman and RFK Jr. had a child.
So, speaking of the worst, okay, we've got to talk about this. I'm going to list 3 vehicles, and you tell me which the worst one is.
Like ever made, or what are we doing?
I'm giving you 3. You tell me which of the 3 is the worst.
Okay.
The 1970 Yugo, the 2000 Pontiac Aztec, or the 2020 Cyberfuck.
Okay, so it's
so hard, isn't it? Because they're all 3 are bad vehicles, but I take a Pontiac Aztec as not the worst out of that lot.
I agree, but I think it's gotta be the Yugo. Like, as much as I despise the Cybertruck, it's still gotta be the Yugo.
So I would agree with that if the Cybertruck wasn't breaking down at a much faster rate than any production vehicle that ever came out of Yugoslavia. I mean,
What?
They are far outpacing Jaguar, which is horrible for repairs. Fiat, which is horrible for repairs. The breakdowns a mile away from the dealership are ridiculous.
Well, so wait, was this a question about the ugliest car?
The worst car.
What do you think the ugliest car is then?
Oh,
So
see,
I have an opinion that's probably going to get some people mad.
I don't like the Kia Soul
Oh, the box on wheels?
with the wraparound window that makes no sense.
Well, I raise you the Nissan Cube.
It did the same thing, yeah.
But I think the Chevy SSR is one of the grossest cars ever made.
See, you can't do that when there's PT losers still running around out there.
Yeah, but they took the PT Loser and were like, let's make it uglier.
I don't think they made it uglier. I think they made it a little bit better, only because of the commercial when they launched it, where it was whatever Aerosmith song they were playing. I don't even remember which one, where they spun it around and backed it up under the truck while the truck was moving.
I just think it's so ugly. God.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, if you're looking at truly ugly, the Prowler was not that good looking of a car. It was just innovative.
Yeah, it was innovative. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
Huh.
And there's other cars in there that, anything that came out of the early 1980s, that was just those boxes on wheels, basically, from the K car, the Shadow and the Sundance and all those Chrysler four bangers and
the Sundance.
Yeah, my sister had a Sundance and I had a Spirit because my parents thought, let's buy them 4-cylinder cars that will last for 17 miles.
So I know you and I were talking about this earlier in the week. I don't even remember what day it was, maybe Tuesday. But it was cars that are kind of dead stock on lots right now.
Yeah, so I was gonna get there eventually, but I think now's a good time to talk about that because you had some interesting stats.
And I found that was by individual model, but I found a better list today. I actually had to do research today. I'm so sorry, but I
He
wanted to find
prepared. This is the first time he's ever prepared for an episode.
because I was excited for this because I think it was a fun conversation, but I was curious by actual whole automaker who had the most kind of dead stock or days of supply, I guess they call it. What is
Yeah.
it, MDS or something like that?
Yes.
Anyway, so you were right, and I found something that actually dates to starting September 2nd. So this is data from just a few days ago. 214 days of supply. What manufacturer? This is number one with the most.
I'm gonna say it's probably Ram.
You got it with 158,000.
Yep.
100. That's insane.
Yeah. And not only that, they also have still 2 model years back of the Challenger and the Charger sitting on lots.
Yeah,
And they don't even make that car anymore.
That was a crazy stat. Well, the Challenger had the most, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, the problem with the Challenger is that it's a great looking car from the outside, but it's a Dodge.
Yeah, and it just sounds like I remember we had our car was in the shop getting repaired for a month. We hit a coyote. And they gave us a Challenger. That's the only car that they had for whatever reason for 30 days. And starting that thing up every day would wake the entire cul-de-sac.
Yep.
And then you'd hit the gas and it would be like going 0 to 12 in like 30 seconds. It was a dog. It was terrible.
Yeah. So let's do your list, and then I've got a better list from the list we were talking about earlier this week.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing number 2, I'm going to take a shot at this. Number 2 is Jeep.
No, you're actually, how many do you want to go deep on this? Do you want to go
Let's
top
go 5? Let's go 5. So I'll name what I think the top 5 are.
Okay. So you got Ram. That's correct. You already know your number.
Jeep is in the top 5.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I've got 2 of them. I'm going to say Audi is up there because they have a ton of cars right now.
No.
Wrong on that one. Okay. Ford obviously is going to have a whole bunch of Lightning sitting around, so I'm willing to say Ford.
Be more specific.
Then Ford, if I'm going against Ram, Ford trucks.
No, sorry, it's another Ford brand.
Lincoln. That's the only other real nameplate they have. So.
Oh, that's true. That's right. They killed off the Mercury.
Yep. And then I'm going to guess, only because this is going to be probably weird, but knowing how bad the F-Type is selling, I'm going to say Jaguar.
That's correct.
So I got 4 of the 5. What's the 5th one?
Alfa Romeo.
Okay. And we were looking at that Alfa when we were talking about this a couple days ago. So
yeah, Alfa Romeo actually is number 2 on the list with 196 days of supply.
Okay. So
well, the one thing I wanted to give as a different metric, so that's days of supply. Now, this is a fascinating stat. Which automaker has the most total inventory?
Toyota. Oh, that's right. Toyota's selling too fast. I shouldn't have gone there. Toyota can't keep theirs in stock. Well, they couldn't for a while. So I'm guessing number 2 car maker. Is this going to be a trick? No, it's going to be GM then.
No, go the other way. Ford.
It's Ford. Okay. I know they have a lot of Lightnings and a lot of Broncos right now.
Oh, a ton. And Mach-E's as well.
Yeah. So
they have almost 500,000, and it's trending up.
Okay. So I have the going into September, the slowest selling cars and the total market day supply by model. Okay.
Okay.
You won't get these. They're too odd for you to get, but I can tell you how many have sold in the last 45 days and the total number that are available for sale. And these
Okay.
are as of the beginning of this month. So
Okay.
number one, the Dodge Hornet has 428 days worth of supply.
Dodge
They're
Hornet.
They've sold 1,536 in the last 45 days and have 14,596 sitting on lots.
I didn't even know that was a car again.
Yeah, yeah, it's their little crossover, and it's not doing
Uh,
well. It's just not selling.
you know,
No, go ahead.
I'll say so. I just went to Dodge.com and clicked on Hornet. Now, can I share my screen? Is that possible?
Yes, but you could just tell me to go to Dodge and click on Hornet because nobody's going to see this.
Do it because it's hilarious and maybe why they're not selling a lot, or it might attribute to it.
Let's see the Hornet. So that gold one that they show right up at the top is just horrendous.
But is it blurry for you like it is for
Oh yeah.
me?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's virtually put onto this. If you go to dodge.com/hornet.html, you'll see what we're talking about, this mustard brown Hornet that they thought was a good idea to be the first Hornet that you were going to see.
And it's blurry. The
Yeah.
biggest hero image they have is blurry.
Yeah. Okay. So, number 2, still going through this. Tied at 428 days of market supply, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
Is that the massive one that
Yes.
they just really? Okay, all right.
Okay. They've got 2,214. This isn't the most cars. This is the most market supply by days. They've sold 233 of those in the last 45 days. Yes.
Oh, that's so bad. Okay.
Yep. Mercedes-Benz EQB has 427 days of market supply. They have 3,548 for sale, and they've sold 373 in the last 45 days. Yep. Now, this was an interesting one. I looked at one of these once upon a time. The nameplate, I've sat in a couple of their different vehicles and they feel odd to me. They seem like big cars. But the Maserati Levant, they have 410 days of supply. They only have 602 for sale, but they've sold 66 in the last 45 days. They have not even sold 2 per day in all of the United States in the last 45 days. I mean,
Oh my
literally,
God.
they're selling 1.5 per day in the entire United States. Next comes the Lincoln Aviator, which the Aviator,
That's a beautiful looking vehicle.
it's a beautiful looking vehicle. It has a lot of horsepower, but it is way too high up. And it is a Lincoln nameplate, which means it's not meant for performance. It's meant for luxury, but a ton of horsepower. But they've got 392 days worth of supply. They have 8,153 for sale and have sold 935 in the last 45 days.
These are terrible numbers.
Yep. So it gets worse. It gets worse from how few they actually sell of some of these. The Land Rover Discovery Sport, 371 days of market supply. 2,051 are available for sale. They've sold 249 in the last 45 days. And the Land Rover Discovery Sport is like 45% of Land Rover sales. Okay. Like they're not selling much at all when they're only selling nationally about 5 a day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The Maserati Grecale, and I've never heard of this car before. It's interesting. I don't follow Maserati that closely, but they have 370 days worth of supply, 879 total for sale, and they've sold 107 in the last 45 days. And realize Maserati has like 4 or 5 cars they sell. They sell a sport version of the Levant, the Quattroporte. I think they still sell the Ghibli or the replacement for the Ghibli, and then this thing that I had never heard of before.
How do these companies? What do they do with all that dead stock?
I don't know,
Because that's a
but
lot.
but here's an interesting one: the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L. So at number 2, we have the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Now we have 354 days worth of supply of the Wagoneer L. There are 1,218 for sale, and they've sold 155 in the last 45 days. So realistically, there are 3,440 Jeep Wagoneers of any trim available for sale. And in the last 45 days, they've sold under 400. Yeah. Now, the fastest selling cars, the inverse of that is still going to be the Toyota Camry. I should have already had this up, but we know the cars that are already selling. What's interesting here, though, is they're not talking about the Challengers and the Chargers that are still on showrooms. There's no Hellcats, I believe, that are left. I believe all of those are officially gone now.
There's a bunch of SRTs out there.
Yeah, but the SRT, they have a bunch of different variants that are considered SRTs that aren't necessarily Hellcats. And I don't think you can get a Demon anymore. And it's going to be interesting because they are bringing back out the Charger, but they're bringing it out as an EV. But about 3 months, it's supposed to come out next model year.
Oh.
But the interesting part about it is they left the transmission tunnel in the vehicle. Okay, so they replatformed it to be able to handle the EV batteries and all that sort of stuff, but just still left a transmission tunnel so they could always still put an internal combustion engine in that vehicle, which is going to be interesting because that's going to have to be the top end of the market to keep people buying the low ends out of it, because they're just not going to buy the low end Chargers anymore. I mean, if you look on Dodge's site, they're still showing the 2023 Charger and the 2023 Challenger.
Now, so I'm on caranddriver.com, and it's a halfway point through the year. What vehicles have sold the most?
Yep.
I'm shocked to see number 6 is the Ram pickup.
There's just so many of them. That's why.
Yeah, but they've sold 180,000, and they're also releasing a plug-in hybrid of the Ram as well as an electric Ram, which I didn't know about.
Yeah, but they've got to, because they can work with. So first of all, Ram as a nameplate, only has trucks. There's nothing else. So by default, because they're heavier, because they're higher, because they're boxier, because they put bigger engines in them for the work size, they need special classifications to be able to get around mileage, miles per gallon restrictions, and all the tariffs that go around with that. Because EVs and hybrids are rated differently, there's probably an offset that something that's disappearing from a loophole in trucks is now coming, is being removed, and so they're having to think about those mile per gallon ratings as an entire nameplate.
Well, because I mean, like when we bought our Tesla, it had the eMPG, which it's fine. It's like whatever, but
it's meaningless.
It is. It's becoming meaningless. I am shocked to see, though, the Ford F-Series is still the number 1 selling vehicle.
Yeah. But again, you got to realize that's just because
fleet
all
sales
of those companies that are out there, they're doing fleet sales. Like there is a Ford dealership that we happened in driving somewhere else to drive past 2 of their dealerships. Because my wife can't figure out where there's a shoe store that I wanted to go to, and we went to 3 different malls before we finally found it. She's going to love me for saying that online. But we saw that the entire dealership at both locations for this one dealership was filled with transit vans and F-150s.
Well, transit vans sell so well.
Yeah. But again, it's because somebody knows it's going to be fleet sales, so they're going to sell a service contract with it. And they're always going to come back to the dealership that they bought it from because they're going to get some sort of discount to get that fleet rate. But Ford's paying some of that. The dealer's seeing it as an investment because they're going to get fleet repair out of it. And that's much more profitable than selling an individual car to one person.
This is an open question because I don't know the answer. So I'm reading this, and it says Tesla Model Y is the fourth bestseller at 209,000 units estimated. And the reason they say that is Tesla doesn't report sales numbers the same way other automakers do. So what's the difference? Is it that Ford would count how many they sold to the dealerships, not necessarily sold to the individuals, and Tesla counts how many they sold to the individual?
So the way that Tesla counts their numbers, and there's no way to be able to validate, but because they don't have dealership lots, they never have cars on the lot.
Right.
And they tend to be an on-demand builder of vehicles. Now we'll talk about how the cyber dumpster is having problems with that, but a lot of dealers, they have to get the vehicles to the lots, then sell it to somebody. There is no lot for Tesla for most of their cars. You're ordering a car that's delivered. Okay, so it's just a different model that they're using that doesn't follow the standard dealership model.
But so the dealerships are counting sold to the end customer, or they count how many Ford sold to those independent dealerships?
No, they count how many are going to the customers, but realize that let's say they're going to be releasing the 2025 soon. The 2025s may hit mid-year.
Yeah.
Okay. Tesla will count it when they get the order. Ford will count it when they get the actual sale the customer has paid for it. So there's a difference in how they count them.
So Tesla's counting reservations, not completed sales.
And that's why they could say they had 1 million Cybertrucks reserved, but they have Cybertrucks sitting in lots right now because they can't get people to honor their reservations because all the problems that people are having with that vehicle.
Well, I saw there's a guy I follow on Twitter that does aerial drone shots of the Texas plant, and they were showing how many Cybertrucks are just sitting in the lot, and it's embarrassing. Like, It's a absolute insane amount.
Yeah. And everybody's going through this right now because we know for a fact that interest rates are still high.
Car loans are crazy high too.
I have a friend that works at a dealership in new car sales, and summer is normally pretty dry for them anyways, but they expected a bump based off of there was going to be an interest rate cut. They've had to get rid of salespeople that, every single person that comes through the door has to be looked at as a potential sale, even if they're just looking at vehicles for the sake of looking at vehicles.
So they're keeping their best people and letting go of the new ones pretty much.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's weird though, because this other report I'm reading is showing that luxury car sales are up, but the everyday customer purchase of like a Toyota, whatever it might be, are way, way down. So that's interesting that people are, I guess people buying like a Porsche are probably paying cash.
Or they can afford the interest rate because, and realize a lot of them are going to be business owners that are going to lease their vehicle through their business. So they don't care as much about that because the leases are calculated differently. And that's a pure expense that they're writing off. So there's different ways that you can get around that when you have the money or the business to be able to do that the everyday user can't. But realize we're also in a situation where more people are still working from home than were in 2020. Okay, so they're not putting the same miles that they used to put on their vehicles, which means they're not wearing out as quickly. There's not as many accidents happening. Okay, which means that cars are just around longer, which means people that would come to a dealership, let's say they're normally on, I'll just say a number, a 6-year cycle, might now be on an 8-year cycle for buying a new
Mhm.
vehicle. I know I'm one of those people that I'm normally, after 3 years, I'm bored of my car, and I'm on 5 years with my car right now because I have not put as many miles on it as would justify buying a new one. But because it's such a rare car, believe it or not, I won't get as much for it because it's going
Yeah.
to be much harder to sell off of the dealership unless they sell it for a cheaper price.
Yeah, my dad's it totally different, but because he's trying to sell a rare car, and that's actually become rather difficult. He has a is it AMC, American Motor Corporation?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. He has the Javelin?
he has a 71 Javelin.
Yeah. That four-wheel drive system on it was really, really, really nice.
Yeah, it was like his childhood car, and
Yeah.
he got it again as his, third midlife crisis or something. He'll
If
listen to that.
if he brings that up to Wisconsin, there's people that will pay money for that car.
It's fully. I mean, I think if he's gonna transfer it somewhere, he should trailer it. To be
Yeah.
fair, because it's
But
in
it's
great
just,
shape.
if it has the four-wheel drive system in it, if it's not the
It
rear-wheel
does.
drive, then that car in the winter in Wisconsin, people will love that car.
Hmm. I'll
Mostly
own that.
because it's a tank. So when your teenager puts it into the ditch, it's going to hurt the ditch more than it's going to hurt the car.
uh,
We always used to say four-wheel drive just got you 4 feet farther into the ditch. That's all it did.
I'm looking at some of the dumbest cars ever made. I mean, I, I've wait. We didn't talk about the Ford Pinto.
The Ford Pinto is such a cliche at this point, though, because everybody knows it. The Ford Pinto was a bad car because of what Ford did when they screwed up on the vehicle, not because it was a bad vehicle per
You
se.
mean they gave it 75 horsepower?
No, the problem with the Ford Pinto is they knew they had a problem with them blowing up, and they did nothing about it because they figured out the cost of fixing them was more expensive than just paying off the lawsuits for the people that died in the fiery blazes.
I forgot about a vehicle.
Okay, so you go Ford Pinto, and now you're somewhere completely different. Let's
Yeah.
hear this.
Sorry, because my
Captain
brain.
ADHD here.
Well, it's just I'm excited. Lincoln Blackwood.
I don't even remember that vehicle.
It was their pickup.
Lincoln, I don't remember that vehicle.
It only had one model year. I
Of
think it
course.
was. I think it was 2003 or 2002, something like that.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was 2002. 2002. That was the only model year they made it.
it's so
Oh
bad.
God, and that's just a Ford Ranger with a Lincoln badge on it. That's all that
No,
is.
it was the size of an F-150.
I'm just looking at the pictures of it, and that sloped nose on that thing.
Oh, it's so bad. It's like they took like
It's
a Lincoln Continental and gave it a truck body.
That's like the Chevy Avalanche. When those things first came out, I hated those
Oh,
vehicles.
yeah.
You know, when they had the guy pulling into the parking lot where they picked up his Mini and put it into the back of the Avalanche. I mean, just dumb. And they did the same thing with the Escalade. I don't know why they ever made an Escalade pickup.
Because there's enough dumb people to buy it.
Yeah.
But different question. If you had to participate, and this is going to go, I know where this is going to take you, but if you had to pick a car to take into a demolition derby, let's assume no injuries could be incurred, what would you take to win?
So assuming that none of the other cars that are going to be in that demolition derby are allowed to do any mods, I'm taking
Just
like
the car itself, yeah.
I'm taking like a 1973 Lincoln Town Car.
See, we're not too far off. I'm like the Buick Regal in the mid to late 70s.
Yeah, the Lincoln Town Car was just a tank. It could is probably the only vehicle in history that turns slower than the Titanic. Had to get a Titanic joke in there somewhere. I
Yeah,
saw
you're
a
so
TikTok the other day that said, this guy said, I'm going to hell for this. He said, this is my favorite graph ever. It showed number of people that died on the Titanic, and it showed this big blip when the Titanic went down. And then, there was a couple little blips after that. And then apparently a lot of the remainder of the people died in like 2003 or something like that. It was a really weird graph. There's a blip of people that died at that point. They were probably all babies at that time. Now, so you said what vehicle you would take to a demolition derby. I'm going to geek out after I get you to answer this one because I have a new favorite car ever. But what would be your favorite car to take to a track of a decent size? Let's say we're not going to go oval. Let's say you were going to go to Spa or Monza. What vehicle would you take? And it has to be a production vehicle.
Production?
Yep.
Well, I mean, like, part of me wants to just go for like an Aston Martin of some sort, but I do think, and because I do love the way they drive, there's quite a few BMWs that I would like to take. And I've not driven this, but knowing what I know, I would like to take the M2.
Oh, you wussed out. I said any car.
I don't. Well, what do you're walking me down a plank, obviously.
Yes, because how could you not want to drive the new Bugatti, the Tourbillon? Okay,
I don't know any of the supercars.
Oh, you're not gonna love the next 5 minutes of me just basically gasming about this car.
What's it called?
It's a Tourbillon by Bugatti. So
yeah.
They've gotten rid of the Chiron, and if you're still in Veyron parlance, you've missed a model in between. But the Veyron and the Chiron had what's called a W16 engine, which is basically like taking two V8s and strapping them together. Okay, so you have a V8 beside a V8 essentially. Now it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the easiest way to think about it. But the vehicle is still it's a fairly big engine that you have in it, but it's wide, it's not long. The Tourbillon is the first production vehicle in about 50 years, I believe, that has a V16. Basically, instead of putting two V8s beside each other, they put two V8s end to end.
Have you been to their website?
I am looking at that car right now because there are so many things we need to talk about with that.
But the ability to scroll and walk through the whole car is so fucking fun.
Yes. So I've watched a bunch of videos on this vehicle. Okay, and it is insane, some of the things. That W16 that they turned into a V16, the crankshaft on that is 4 feet fucking long.
It's 8.3 liters.
It's 8.3 liters, yeah. But it also is a hybrid. So the total amount of horsepower that you can unleash is 1,800 horsepower. There's a 1,000 horsepower ICE engine with a hybrid override with 800 horsepower.
1,800 horsepower
total. Yep. Now, I'm not sure you can put all of that onto the road at one time. I believe it's 256 miles an hour.
236 limited, 276 with speed key.
Yeah, they do that where it's basically their version of the governor, where you can't be sitting in the driver's seat and get that key into the spot, so you can't just get mad and decide you're going to override the governor. But I'm sure that key alone costs a ton of money. But realize the wheels on this thing, when you have to replace the tires, It's a $30,000 set of tires, and only Goodyear can mount them. Okay, you can't go to a regular store and get tires for this because the way that they have to mount them has to be so precise to be able to get rid of vibrations that they can't do it on any equipment that exists at a standard dealership or tire place. You have to get them mounted by, especially by Goodyear.
There's the 0 to 60 is 2 seconds.
Yes, but here's the most insane part of this vehicle. When you turn the steering wheel, the outer part of the steering wheel turns, the inner part does not. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. Because
Run
they
that
have
by me
parts
one
on the
more
cluster.
time.
The outside ring of the steering wheel turns, but all the stuff that's in the middle of the steering wheel doesn't.
You can see it in the little graphic. Oh,
Yes.
what the fuck? How'd I miss it? That's wicked.
And it's all you see the gears that are running some of the analog stuff back behind them. They actually left some of the stuff transparent that you can see the gears. I mean, this vehicle is insane in every single possible way. Now I believe it's also like $6.6 million.
But it's,
and they're
hold on
probably
a
on
second. It's an automatic?
Yeah, they won't put a manual transmission in a supercar anymore. The computers have gotten so fast and the all-wheel drive systems are so fast, there's no point because the computer knows better when to shift than you do every single time. Even my car knows when to shift better than what I do. I can do the override with my paddle shift, but I don't because the car knows better than me.
You know, this is not related, but kind of related. I went to see the new Beetlejuice last night for
No, it's not related. It's not related at all. But go ahead. By the way, spoiler alert, he's going to spoil something here.
No. I'll be good. Anyway, went and saw that, but one of the previews was a new car movie, which I typically like car movies, like Ford versus Ferrari as an example. I actually enjoyed that. This is with Brad Pitt. It's called F1. And
every time they try to make an open wheel movie, it becomes a CGI horror.
Who knows, right? I can't say it's not out till next year, but the trailer really, really well done. It was actually like exciting. You actually were like, and the audio system in the theater was great, so you got to feel the rumbling, and it felt good.
See, what I preferred to do is I used to run a SCCA Solo 2, so I got to feel the rumble of the cars because I was actually beside all of the cars. I've done track days where I've done the same thing, but they used to run us about once a year when I was down in Milwaukee. They would run us in the same day that the Porsche Club would run.
Oh, cool.
And what you'd have us with all our heavily modded vehicles, that were screeching around corners and we're tearing up brakes, and you'd hear squealing all over the place as we're going around the track. And then the Porsche Club, because it costs, $5,000 for a brake job, you don't hear any tires squealing. You don't hear anybody running off the track. You don't hear anybody doing the things you would expect to do. Well, we're laying rubber all over the place. So it's always fun because it was embarrassing for them that they weren't even making noise.
So question. I've never been to an F1 race. Have you?
No, I've been to NASCAR races and IndyCar races, but I've never been to an F1 race.
Yeah, it's only. Well, wait. I guess they're doing a lot more in the U.S. now that they have Miami and Vegas, and they have Austin as well.
Yeah,
Austin. Yeah, that's every October.
Yeah,
but I've just never done it. That's something I think I want to just see it once.
So what you have to realize is on a road track as a spectator, it's actually a little bit weird. And I'm going to start off talking about Indy, like the track Indy first, to explain why. When you're in the stands, the cars are actually in front of you where you can see for probably about 2 seconds. Okay, so the leader passes and 2 seconds later, there's too many people, there's too much infrastructure to be able to see anything else that's going on. Then you're watching the screens to see what goes on. Now, Indy, they do a lap. I was there for NASCAR races. They're doing them in about 56 seconds, I believe, which means that for a minute, you had 2 seconds of seeing the leader. You go to a
No.
road track that takes 2 to 3 minutes to get around. And normally what they do is they seat people at corners. If you're in a straightaway, you're never going to see anything. You're watching the screens the entire race.
It's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Now, Indy is an oval, correct?
Indy is an oval with a road course inside of it.
Oh.
So that's why when they run the Indy cars, they do 2 races there. One of them is the road track, and one of them is the oval. They do the same thing at Daytona. They have an internal road track that runs the 24 hours of Daytona. They were thinking about doing that at Talladega. I don't know if they ever did, because last time I was at Talladega, the support structures just aren't there. It's going to run NASCAR races and it's going to run local races, and that's it.
And are they allowing any electric cars yet into these kind of races?
Well, all of the F1 cars, I believe, are still hybrids. The problem with running an electric car race is that unless you're doing a hypermiling race, the length of time that it takes to charge a true EV really limits them. So there are some series that are E, but they're very short races because you're either pedal to the metal and wasting the electricity really quick, or you're hypermiling it, and then it takes forever for a race and there's no excitement because nobody ever crashes. It's all about trying to hit the apex perfectly to cut down the resistance of the rumble strips, as opposed to trying to take the shortest line.
And you're right, the F1 vehicles are considered hybrids.
But they also, I haven't paid attention to the rules this year, but they're also a sealed fuel system, I believe, as well. They fill up those vehicles at a certain point, and they're not allowed to fill up the vehicles during the race. There's a certain amount of gas they're allowed to go through, so that they have to use the hybrid side of the engine for a certain amount of the time, and it's equal for everybody. Because otherwise, the bigger teams would just find a way to store extra fuel in the car, or they do something to be able to keep the ICE engine going longer so that they got more horsepower, and then use the battery sparingly. And they're changing the DRS rules, I know, this year, and that sort of stuff. But
yeah, I'm just reading highlights here. It's like F1 cars use both elements simultaneously to generate high power and efficiency. It's so fascinating.
I've never understood that, because technically, if you have an axle that is spinning, which you have to have an axle for an ICE engine, and then you have a motor that's tied to the wheel itself. I don't know how you get more speed by combining those two, unless one is supplementing the other. So there's some engineering going on there that's really interesting, because that's the only thing that makes that Bugatti work, is the fact that you're able to use both engines at the same time. But it's not that they're not doing it. I don't know how exactly you supplement one over the other, because the linear torque curve of an electric engine and the standard curve that you see on torque in an internal combustion engine, they just I don't know how they work together unless you flatten out the torque curve of the ICE motor. And I could be completely wrong on that.
I can send you I can send you this link. I found an infographic. It won't matter for our listeners, but it's the hybrid F1 power. How does it work? Infographic. It's actually pretty interesting to take a look at.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sorry, I know that was a really random tangent based on a movie trailer, but I find that world to be fascinating, because we actually have where I live in DC. It's odd. Happens, I think, every Sunday. There's a Manchester United soccer game that one bar opens up at like 7 a.m. for. And then there's another bar that's almost next to it that opens up for the F1 race. And you get obviously very different crowds, but they're just jammed full. And I'm seeing people drinking beer at like 7 a.m., having pizza for breakfast, watching their respective sporting events. It's kind of special in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, I have I have a problem with what's happened with Champ slash IndyCar over the last decade and a half. I mean, um, it's just the series looked like it was growing and it had to pare back because the split between IRL and Champ Car just caused all sorts of problems. They weren't getting the venues and they split the attendance, and they haven't really gotten it fully back yet. And NASCAR's suffering. I don't even know who their sponsor is this hour anymore.
It's you don't hear of NASCAR hardly at all anymore. Like
And
their marketing team sucks.
I used to be the biggest NASCAR fan out there. I would sit and watch every single lap of every single race on whatever day it was running, normally Sunday afternoons. I would tape the Packer game to be able to watch the race and then watch the Packer game afterwards. That's how big of a fan of it I was. I still have multiple Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. leather jackets that I own to this day that I don't wear because I don't want to be seen in them anymore because of how bad NASCAR's gotten. But I was a huge fan, and they just ruined that sport. But I want to ruin something else. So I got to do a spoiler alert because I went and saw Deadpool versus Wolverine. And I have the most contrary opinion of anybody that I've talked to about this movie. So
I haven't seen it.
Yes, and I'm going to ruin it for you.
Why?
Because if you haven't seen it by now, it's going to be out of the theaters in a week anyways. You're not going to go watch it in the theater, so you missed your chance. And if anybody else, you've gotten your spoiler alert time now to be able to jump ahead past when I'm talking about this. But here's the thing. I didn't think it was a good movie. And here's why. Everybody in the Marvel Cinemaverse that still exists as a character got a multiverse story after the end of Endgame. Okay, all the characters did. Deadpool, they went and did the exact same thing. And you could see it was almost formulaic how they were bringing multiverse into it because everybody has to outdo everybody instead of just being on par with the last thing that they did. And the movie had it had a few funny jokes. Ryan Reynolds has a really good set of writers that feed him a lot of stuff that he could do. But overall, it was just barely better than Deadpool 2, in my opinion.
But was it intentional? Like they're trying to set up the next generation of things?
No, this is the escalation. They've done everything that they can do in this universe. So all these Marvel characters are now going into multiverses. And they did the exact same thing with Deadpool. And
so
Deadpool
it's another sellout.
Yep,
another sellout.
Totally. And I don't like Ryan Reynolds in everything he's done before this, but I loved the first Deadpool. The second Deadpool was a letdown for me. I think it was a letdown for everybody. The third Deadpool just seemed like a kumbaya moment for everybody. And it just wasn't good. And I know a lot of people are going to beat me up about that, but I'm sorry. I'm allowed to have my own opinion. I run this podcast with Ryan, not you, so screw you.
I mean, we've talked about it. Not every Marvel's great. Marvel movie's great. It's just like not every Star Wars movie's great. Not everything should be made.
Yeah.
And some things are made for very commercial reasons, and that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but the last Spider-Man live action movie was just horrendous. When they brought back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and had Tom Holland in it. Yeah, if that's a spoiler for you, you're a couple years out, so you deserved that. But
it is for me, but I saw too many memes to not know it didn't happen. Yeah. I just lost interest in Spider-Man. I'll be honest.
We talked about it. With our favorite. Yeah, with our favorite ones. Tom Holland is great, but they've run out of stuff. They had to go to multiverse again to be able to escalate it past the last thing that they did instead of just telling a continuation of the story that is just as funny, that is just as good, they had to outdo themselves. And that's a problem because eventually, what do you do when the multiverse isn't enough?
Go to what's next? I
You
actually
collapse the
don't know.
universe and start a new one with a completely different way. Do you redux the old movies with making them seem more like multiverse movies? I mean, they're going to run out of things to do.
If they can do Apocalypse correctly, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know where the next thing is. I wish that they would do. Back in the 80s, they did a comic book series out of the Marvel Universe called Secret Wars, where they
Yeah.
took all of the good guys and put them on one side of the planet, and all of the bad guys and put them on the other side of the planet, and
I
they
thought
just
that
had
was
to fight each other.
I thought that was rumored to be in like writing production.
But they don't have the. I doubt Chris Hemsworth is doing any more of the movies. We know Robert Downey Jr. is not doing the movies. Tom Holland may be done. They've
Well,
killed off
Robert Downey
Black
Jr. is
Widow.
doing Doctor Doom.
He is
Yeah,
in the Fantastic Four.
yeah.
Oh God, they're gonna make another brutal Fantastic Four movie. By the way, the Johnny Torch part in Deadpool versus Wolverine. Honestly, you have to stay to the very end. Way too many people left without waiting till the very end. You're missing stuff if you don't stay all the way through the credits.
That's a given with any Marvel movie. You have to.
Yes, but they trick you because they did some other stuff that made it look
Oh,
nostalgic. And then there was more credits. People got bored, left. And then I stayed right till the end. And there was only one other couple that was in the theater while my wife and I were there. And that's probably the funniest part of the entire movie is what they do at the end. So
okay. I canceled my Disney Plus membership, but I am literally like 20 Marvel movies behind.
oh God, how can you be that far behind?
Told you
I've
I
watched
lost interest in Marvel.
my the worst of the movies are the Iron Man movies. Tony Stark, aka Robert Downey
I
Jr., the
heard
weakest.
Ant-Man was pretty bad.
The first Ant Man was hilarious. The second one was marginal.
And the third
The
one?
third one, I've only watched that once. That was bad. That same with the second Doctor Strange. I hope they never make another Doctor Strange movie. That was just bad. Um, the movie that they did with Black Widow, when they
Oh,
went back and told her origin story, was horrible.
no need for that
Love
movie.
and Thunder was decent, actually. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
It
I
had
thought that
way
was,
too much of Chris Hemsworth's ass in it. So,
maybe that's why I enjoyed it.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's probably the
So,
best movie.
Ryan, you got to get us out of this hellhole we're in.
Yeah, we're down a path. But well, I don't even know what to ask people to send in this time, but well, no, I do. I would love to know everyone's most cherished car that they had growing up
You
that they
had to
owned
own it.
to own it. Yes. I would love to understand what that was. What was yours growing up?
Growing up, I had a Mustang. That's always going to be my favorite car. It was a Fox body. I loved that car. It was horrible in the winter. It was rear-wheel drive, but I drove the crap out of that thing. I bought my other Mustang because it was nostalgic to that Mustang. Um, but my favorite car of all is the car that I own now. I have my Audi RS5. Um, my next car will most likely be an RS7. Uh, I I love all cars.
But the question was growing up.
Yeah, that's why I said my Mustang growing up was my
Yeah.
favorite car. But realize
All
I
right.
drove an '84 Econoline van that I loved. I drove a Mazda Speed 3. That thing had 19 pounds of boost on it. That was just a crotch rocket. I had a Hyundai Genesis R Spec.
My
The
dad
3.6
had one
liter.
of those. Those things are crazy.
Oh yeah, just I love doing flying J's in that thing. I've had two Mustangs in my life. I drove a Camaro when I was doing SCCA racing. I've just had a whole bunch of cars that I loved. I've also had a lot of cars that I didn't like whatsoever, but we don't have enough time to talk about those today.
Yeah, I would also, that was going to be my other thing. What's the least favorite car that you've owned as well? I would
Uh,
love to hear that too. So your
Jeep
favorite?
Grand Cherokee that I bought as a winter car for $1,000 that when you turned right too hard, stalled out and
Uh,
then wouldn't go again until you let it sit for about 10 minutes.
I had a hand-me-down Chrysler Sebring convertible. Enough said.
Yes.
But anyway, email us your favorite growing up and your least favorite growing up. repressedhumorissues@gmail.com. But thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dan.
And y'all, stay classy in whatever city you're in.
God, that was horrible.
I know. I was trying to think of something with cars, but that's my brain's so fried because it's 10:30.
You go da 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 da.
Oh,
That's how you end that out.
but I'm not that. No, no,
Do you even know what that's from?
no.
That's a General Lee.
Huh?
Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, well.
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. That's the horn on the General Lee.
Oh, you weren't doing it high pitched enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to go into extra high vocal cord range? No, not going to happen. Too dangerous.
I have La Cucaracha on my Tesla, and I can also make the horn do farts.